Okay, so this is going to be a variation of last week's weekly stretch where I showed you that pigeon pose that can be quite painful for a lot of people, or even that figure four that is difficult for some people to get into. So this is where we're going to start from here, bringing our feet down in front of us and our chest nice and tall, and we're going to drop down to the one side. So now this time, instead of going side to side, we're going to actually kind of try to sit up in this position. This is where it can be a nice variation to, if you're in yoga class and that pigeon pose is too much, just sitting up nice and tall while in this position. You're still going to be getting maybe not the same intensity and stretching slightly different muscles, but very similar effect being in this 90-degree position. So for this one, you can stay nice and tall if this is where you're at. If you find your knee is still up, that's totally fine. I'd rather you work with having a pillow, some sort of bolster, foam roller, whatever to support you. I don't want you, again, shoving your knee down, forcing it down if it's not comfortable. So from this position, you're going to stay nice and tall. You're going to lean forward, coming back and trying to stretch into your glutes on that same leg. What I find a lot of people end up doing is they'll kind of hang out like this. I'm not getting really much into my hips unless I'm keeping my back straight and trying to isolate through my hips. If you find that you need a bit of a tougher variation, I would actually even lean towards, so kind of have your nose pointed towards your shoes and coming down this way, getting a little bit more of a stretch. And then if you can, trying to rotate as much as you can here. Again, I'm trying to keep my back straight, but that's not where my mobility will let me, so I'm not going to make it very far. And I'm going to keep working through different angles here, holding it for 2, 3, even 5, 10 seconds if you feel comfortable in that position, and then alternating till I get fully around. The nice thing about this position is you have that 90-degree bend here, and you have a 90-degree bend at the back, so you're actually opening that external rotation in that front hip and that internal rotation in the back of your hip. So even just sitting in this position is a good way to open up the hip joints, but if you want to get a little more into the front of your hip, you can lean back, trying to get a bit more of a stretch into that front leg. If it's too much, just sit up tall. You're still getting some movement into it. And then to get out of this, you're going to do what we did in last week's weekly stretch video, and you're going to be switching sides now. So again, nice and tall. I'm going to try to come down without rounding my back, just so I get a nice stretch into this front leg's glutes. And then you can try different variations, going up towards my feet here. Then I'm going to try to go even further. Again, I don't have that kind of mobility. So I'm going to just kind of limit myself here and then come back, hang out here for a few seconds, and then do the whole thing again. I find this stretch is really good for getting into that mobility, but it's also a nice variation, again, to that pigeon pose, especially when you kind of get frustrated that you can't quite get into it. It is a little bit more of like a bit of a constricted position versus this 90-90, you can just sit like this instead. So if you're in yoga or doing at home yoga, try this out if you're getting pain with that. And in general, it's a great way to get mobility in through your hip joints and also just getting some stretch into your muscles too. So I would try about I would say I'm not too great with counting out my reps for this one. I kind of go with whatever feels good, but I would try to get 3 different angles in at least, and then at least do that like 4 to 5 times each side. All right, give that a shot and see how you feel with it.